Welcome back. So we've talked a little bit about professionalism in our last presentation. When does professionalism, which is kind of like being nice to patients, not making jokes or making fun, doing everything the right way, policy and procedure wise, and keeping up with your credentials, when does that intersect with morality and ethics? And what are morality and ethics? That's what we'll discuss today. So, reviewing, a profession is an occupation that involves prolonged training and formal qualifications. For us, we go to school, we take the exam, and we get our license. A professional is someone who can uh, and regulate themselves, and someone who upholds ethical standards. It's not easy to keep yourself up to date with your annual license and keeping the ISRs current, so that you have to figure out a routine that works for you. Because of all these different things we have to do, and because it generally takes what you might consider a good person to be all these things, professionals are trusted by society as having special knowledge or skills. Our specific profession is to aid the physician in diagnosing, treating, and preventing disease when it comes to sleep medicine. The BRPT, or the Board of Registered Polysomnographic Technologists, has written text based on professionalism in the sleep lab. All RPSGTs shall provide competent services and shall use all efforts to meet the patient's sleep technology requirements. The RPSGT will act in the best interest of the patient at all times. The BRPT demands placing the interest above those of the physician, settings, and maintaining standards of competence and integrity, and providing expert advice to society on the matters of health. By being sleep technologist professionals, we have a responsibility not only when we're doing our job, but in our private lives as well, to help others the best we can. If you see something happening that you know is wrong, say something or report it. If you think the physician is making it so that every patient has sleep apnea so he gets kickbacks from CPAP sales, maybe you should report that. That's fraud. Fraud is a big deal. Taking advantage of patients not only makes them not trust that doctor anymore, but they might not trust any doctor ever after that. And that's why we need to uphold decorum and be professional at all times, so that when the public does not see us, so the public doesn't see us as impersonal or dishonest or self-serving. Professionalism is the way things should be handled. We don't need to arm wrestle just to get our way or to prove we're right. We're dignified and we handle all matters with calmness and rationale. Trust goes a long way with patients. They are more likely to use the treatments if they trust you. The professionalism of sleep technologists can also assist when patients are discouraged about how they don't see the doctor as much, or they don't like how corporate medicine has become so restrictive uh, and very impersonal. Sleep technologists put a human face on medicine, and you can help patients feel better about their problems and their treatments. When you're online, especially with social media, watch what you say and post. Even if you think your site is totally private, you might be surprised to find out how much is actually widely available. Once something has been posted online, it's really there forever. It's virtually impossible to destroy every last byte of data. If you want to play it safe, don't post anything about work or patients ever. Maybe the one thing you could post is, I love being a sleep technologist, and that's probably all I would say about work. I might not even post that because it could be misconstrued as a sarcastic statement. When you're reading something or sending something with just words, you don't have the impact behind it and the stress of the words like if you were speaking to someone. So it's easy to take just words um, in a different way than they were intended. Not all professionals are exactly the same, but they share the same core of duties. Adherence to standards, accept the responsibility for continuity of care. If you're in the position of seeing continuing treatment patients, You take it seriously to make sure they are as comfortable and well equipped as they can be, as well as being up to date with the newest standards of care. Professionals are empathetic and sensitive to situations cultural and diverse. We don't make jokes at others' expense. I think some of the best humor is self depreciative or just silly humor. So don't go making jokes about women or race or things like that. Never assume a person's character or ability based off of what you just see. Accountability. Accept responsibility for your behavior and how it impacts patient care. Every night that you work is still a new patient that needs help. Even if it's night 1742 for you, it's the most important night of sleep medicine for that patient and yourself, because everything has brought you to whatever moment in the future you're in. Never become cynical about helping others or come to work with a bad attitude. We're trying to save people's lives, and you never know what the patient is bringing with them. That's the difference. Professionals find ways to separate work and work from personal, and they give all their effort to the patient. Professionals also make the commitment to continually improve their personal character and act with integrity, altruism, and empathy. Being a professional is not easy, but it is particularly rewarding. When you encounter patients as a professional, either in person or on the phone or digitally, introduce yourself and your role as a sleep technologist. Be friendly and greet your patient. When the patient is talking, put all the energy into listening and practice active listening. When the patient's done speaking, summarize their words in your own words to show that you understand. You want to make sure you understand what the patient says. You don't want the patient you don't want to say that the patient says that they do something when they don't. Always be respectful with your communication. Active listening, being respectful, and showing that you are actively trying to fix things for the patient shows that you care and are concerned for their well-being. You should also warn the patient that they may be a little uncomfortable or annoyed with all the sleep equipment, and that if they do try CPAP, it sometimes takes a while to get used to. I try to be conservative when I tell patients how long it takes to get used to CPAP. The truth is, some patients take to it immediately with no problem, and some patients really need some help to use it. There's a learning curve, and every patient accepts or tolerates CPAP differently. When talking to your patient, consider what you should ask them to find out what to do to help them. Here, you have to use your own judgment and pretend you are a physician. Only in your mind, though. Don't really go outside your scope of practice. But you need to answer 3 questions. The diagnostic question: what is wrong with the patient? You go through the patient's history, their physical exam, and their lab results. All that's in the chart. Answer the therapeutic question: what can be done for the patient? For example, if the patient has mild sleep apnea while they are supine, they could use CPAP. That's that can be done simply. The prudential question. Prudential means thinking with the future in mind. What should be done for the patient? Well, if that patient has mild sleep apnea while supine, but they have an extreme anxiety response to masks or something on their face and they can't sleep with CPAP, then maybe you should treat them with positional therapy, meaning you make them sleep on their side. If they only had it while they were on their back, then they could sleep on their side, and that is what we would call protective against sleep apnea. There are insurance covered devices that detect if you roll on your back, and it can get you to roll back onto your side. This is a way to show compliance with treatment, kind of like CPAP. For the time being, this will allow the patient to sleep without mild sleep apnea while you work with them to get on CPAP so that they can eventually sleep supine. And chances are the patient will eventually need CPAP anyways, because sleep apnea rarely gets better unless it's something strictly caused by like obesity. And even then, the anatomy is there for obstruction and it should still be monitored. From our last professionalism conversation, we spoke about the things you need to do to continue your education. One saying goes, it doesn't matter how nice you are, your eye won't see what your mind doesn't know. An example being, if you don't know what seizure activity looks like, it doesn't matter how much your heart cares about seizure patients, you'll never be able to detect it until you learn about it. Videos are great ways to learn, and that's how I learn a lot of times. But you get to a certain point where the material gets so complicated that that's the time that you need to just start reading something. Reading allows you to process the information in your own time and reread things when you need to, instead of having to go back and back and back on a video and listen to the words as fast as they speak them. I've had times with sleep where I've had to reread sentences over and over to try and understand what they were trying to tell me. That's okay, and it happens to everyone. It's a part of learning. Actively be on the lookout for learning opportunities like your department and interdepartment conferences. The AASM and AAST have conferences that are nothing but learning opportunities. They usually come with CECs, which can help you with the milestones and standards which must be met to continue being in our PSGT, like the 50 CECs needed every 5 years. North Carolina has its own sleep medicine conference every year, the NCASM or NCASM, the North Carolina Academy of Sleep Medicine. I've been to that. It's where I met Mary Carskadden. When you are a professional sleep technologist, you leave your worries at the door. Be as positive as you can. Sleep problems have solutions, and you're not having to deal with life-or-death problems. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with these patients, and be confident that you can help them. I know this can be difficult, but you have to let the patient know that they are your first priority. When I first got this PowerPoint, it said to treat others the way you want to be treated, like the golden rule. But I don't really agree with that anymore. I've learned about different people and different cultures, I think the statement should be amended to treat others the way they would want to be treated. Personally, I'm introverted, and if I'm getting hooked up, or when I had hair and got a haircut, I would hate it when the barber or whoever's cutting my hair would talk to me. I just wanted to get in and get out without having to think and talk to anybody. On the other hand, there are a lot of patients who are much more comfortable the more you talk. So learn to read your audience and try to figure out what works best when people are adding to the conversation or just responding to what you're saying with just one or two words. If you make a mistake with something, apologize. Hold yourself accountable. Hiding things only makes it worse, because not only did you mess up once, you try to cover it up, and doing that makes you look suspicious and untrustworthy. Someone who has integrity is an honest, accountable, and moral person. They have the individual capability to make difficult judgment calls. If you see something going on in the lab that's dangerous, say something. If you allow dangerous things to keep happening, like letting patients smoke around the oxygen equipment or children swinging on the side rails or something, you've got to intervene. Maybe those aren't great examples, but if you still see something in the lab that they allow that's not really in line with other standards, you need to report it. If you don't, you could be found complicit with negligence. Having integrity means being transparent. Let others know what you do and why you do it. Accurate documentation is a great way to be transparent. You have no idea how much time some managers have to go back into your notes and micromanage. I remember a time where an old manager saw where a technologist said they went into a room and asked the patient to try CPAP just to see that there was nowhere on the video that the technologist did that. The manager went back on the time that the note was entered that the technologist went in and correlated it with the time on the video, and he never went in there. So the technologists lied about offering CPAP, and they caught them. That's a triple whammy. Because they didn't do their job by offering CPAP, then they lied about it on the documentation, which is legal. And now the manager found out and has to fix the situation themselves. And lying about it on the documentation is not legal, but documentation is legal. It could be used in court. So lying about it's not illegal, but documentation itself is a legal entity. What are ethics? Ethics are a set of ideas and beliefs that a person lives by and that control their interactions with other individuals. Morality comes from morals, or the ideas or beliefs that people think are good or correct. You can say ethics are personal laws set due to a person's morality. If a person believes no person should ever be killed in any way, they must disagree with the death penalty. Their morals say you shouldn't kill people. Their ethics guide their actions, like voting against proponents for the death penalty. If you have the moral obligation to help a person in distress no matter what, that means you ethically have to get up from your chair, even if you're on break, and save a person if they're having a heart attack. Not all people have the same morals and ethics, and that's why we have ethical standards, so we don't let people die just because we're on break. Some people just don't care. That's also why we don't experiment on children. We don't feel that is morally the right thing to do. When it comes to medicine, we have a subset of ethics called bioethics or life ethics. It refers to all the sticky subjects and problems that have happened because of technology advances in medicine, like who gets the cancer treatment and who doesn't. Not everybody can pay for it, and it's not cheap. Some people believe health care should be available for everyone for free, but others don't want to pay more in taxes. Bioethics can also, they're usually life or death situations like euthanasia. Euthanasia is ending your life, choosing to do it. In a respectful manner so that you don't suffer from an illness. Some people believe life is so precious it can't be ended even to stop suffering. And obviously there are others who believe they should die with dignity, with their faculties intact when they want to, and they don't want to be a burden on their loved ones. These principles can be personal, or they can be as big as organizational or worldwide even. Law and ethics are different concepts, but they are related. Ethics can eventually become laws, but laws do not define ethics. You may not hold the personal belief that murder is wrong, and so when you go out and kill someone and get arrested, it may not be against your ethical standards, but it is against the law. Ethics relate to morals and can help us organize complex information and competing values and interests. Usually this stuff is just money versus everything, but it formulates consistent and coherent decisions. Like we spoke about before, there can be gray areas in ethics. There are a lot of them, especially in modern healthcare. For instance, should a parent have the right to refuse immunizations for their child? And does public safety supersede an individual's rights? Right now, for vaccines, the overwhelming view in the medical community is that vaccines are a super low-risk solution for keeping autoimmune compromised or at-risk patients safe, like young children or elderly people. If a person decides not to vaccinate, they make the conscious decision to limit their interactions with society, especially since vaccines are required to attend school. If you want to live a long and fruitful life, most of the time you have to go through at least high school. I'm pretty sure everyone in this course has had to have vaccines at one point or another. The real reason vaccines are a hot topic was an article, I believe it was in the 80s, maybe 90s, that was published in something called The Lancet, which falsely concluded that vaccines caused autism. That paper was taken out, it was rescinded, but the damage had already been done, and people took that misinformation as fact and have been leading the fight against vaccinations ever since. Truly, if anyone has reason not to trust vaccinations, it's black people. Remember in Tuskegee, the government inoculated black soldiers with syphilis intentionally and without their knowledge. So, yeah. Contemporary American society has attempted to embrace marginalized communities, and one of these are non-binary persons. A non-binary person does not identify as the sex they were assigned at birth. They could be both sex. They could feel like they're a mix of both, male, a little bit more male, a little bit more female, or neither at all. When speaking to a non-binary patient, or any patient at all for that matter, you should ask what they prefer to be called. If you want, you can include what are your pronouns if you're unsure. A good front desk staff will have charting information about the patient's preferred name and gender pronouns. Always refer to the patient by the name they indicate, but you may confirm who they are by asking their real name, but respectful and call them what they want to be called afterwards. My government name is Robert, but my friends call me Rob. When you ask questions, don't be afraid of offending someone by trying to learn more about them. You're trying to make them feel more comfortable, and I think they'll understand that if you make a mistake. Simply apologize and correct it the best you can. As much as I hate it, it helps, I really do, it helps to actively role play with another person, or just out loud. Say the words and get comfortable asking questions. What do you prefer me to call you? That sounds silly. Let's try it again. What would you like to call me? People call me Rob. What do people call you? Something like that. Be friendly with it. The more you think about how to word something, the quicker the words will form when you just need them to, and they'll just fall out of your mouth. Scripts are a good way, but don't be impersonal. Even if you don't understand or agree with non-binary people and how they live, consider how they may feel on the inside to make them do the things they do. A lot of people have body dysmorphia, which is also affecting the transgender community. That's when you look at your body and you see something totally different than what's reality. You might see someone who's, you might see fat, you might see ugly, you might see this or that. You might see, I'm not a male or I'm not a female. And some of these people have been abused as a child, and this is the result. This may be their way of coping with stressful situations. If you show the little amount of respect and understanding that every person deserves, they are more likely to trust you. So be open-minded. Being kind to a person with differences from you does not make you evil, it doesn't turn you non-binary, and it doesn't cost anything. A lot of these patients are actually suicidal, and if this is what it takes to keep them here, so be it. All right, that's enough of that. We got that escalated there at the end, but it's all about professionalism and making good judgment calls based off of ethics and what we believe to be true. So be good sleep professionals and be good people. All right, see you next time.